Don't settle for bad socks. Get comfort and grip at an affordable price with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Choose from 18 different colors at puregripsocks.com.
These are 5 big mistakes to avoid when buying a new pair of football boots. Starting with the most important tip, because if you get this wrong, nothing else matters, and that is don't get the wrong size. Shooting, dribbling, controlling the ball, changes of direction, and perhaps most importantly, overall comfort are all dependent on getting the right size. If you really think about it, every contact you make with the ball is a precision movement. So if you have a pair of football boots that are simply way too big with a ton of extra space, either in the width or especially in the length, your ability to be precise on the ball goes down significantly. Not to mention, if your boots are just way too big, that's going to lead to slipping of your foot inside the boot, which is typically going to lead to excessive rubbing, leading to blisters and general discomfort, not to mention instability and potential higher risk of injury. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, if your boots are just way too small, that's typically not a recipe for a very comfortable playing experience. It's also not great for the long-term health of your feet, but it's not one of those things that most people tend to do. If you can get away with it and it's a feel that you like, by all means do it. But for the vast majority, the ideal amount of space that you want either on the sides or especially at the end of your football boots is as little as possible while still feeling comfortable. Some people say to leave a thumb's width of extra space at the end of the toe, especially if you're still growing. Personally, I think that's a little bit too much. Half a thumb's width at most is what I would personally recommend if you want to have that little bit of extra space. But in general, you want your boots to fit your feet as perfectly as possible, meaning as snug as possible without being uncomfortable. You might find a great deal on a pair of soft ground football boots with metal tip studs, but if you never play on soft natural grass and only play on artificial grass, that's a bad idea. FG, SG, and AG stud patterns exist for a reason, and while you can get away with wearing some of them on multiple different playing surfaces, typically they're designed for one surface and one surface only. So if you buy something for a different playing surface than what you typically play on, comfort can be an issue, durability can be an issue, your warranty, should the durability go wrong, will be an issue, and perhaps most importantly, your typical risk of injury will go up if you're wearing the wrong stud pattern for the playing surface you're using the boots on. Tip number 3 is that boots by position, as well as football boot categories, are more so just a suggestion rather than a rule. In other words, just because Nike tells you that the Mercurial Superfly 9 is the ideal pair of football boots for a winger, should you prefer something a little bit more padded with a slightly different fit and a totally different stud pattern, you should not feel obligated to jam your foot in a pair of Mercs just because that's what the marketing suggests. You should wear the football boots that you like the fit and feel of. Different categories of football boots definitely have different attributes, but at the end of the day, the boots have no idea what you're doing in them or what position you're playing. Tip number 4 is that you need to be honest with yourself as it relates to fit and comfort. We live in a time where the vast majority of people are ordering their boots online, meaning that you are purchasing them prior to actually trying them on, which again, circle back to tip number 1, sizing does become a bit of an issue. You need to be honest with that as well. But when it comes to overall comfort, even if you've done all the research and technically the boots you picked should be perfect for you, shape is something that varies a lot from one model to the next, and certainly from person to person. And if you put those boots on your feet and they just don't feel right, you need to be honest with yourself and recognize that maybe those aren't the right boots for you, even though they're the ones you had your heart set on. And trust me when I say this, because I've done it plenty of times myself, if they don't feel good straight out of the box, they're probably not gonna feel better after you wear them. If the place you ordered the boots from allows for returns and or exchanges, definitely take advantage of that policy in the event that the boots you ordered just don't feel right. And finally, tip number 5, once you do have your new boots, please do your best to break them in slowly. Something that I think's improved a lot in the world of football boots over the last couple years is step-in comfort. From the moment you put those brand new boots on your feet, they should feel pretty much good to go and or broken in. But are they actually In some cases, yes. In some cases, no, because at the end of the day, there is likely, compared to your old boots, some points of friction on your feet that wouldn't necessarily be exposed to the same type of friction in your old boots. And if you are to wear them straight into a match, for example, where you're running around and focusing on playing rather than feeling what's happening on your feet, the likelihood of you ending that first wear in that first match with a ton of blisters on your feet, even if the boots are comfortable for you in the long term, it's pretty high. I'm not saying that you can't wear a brand new pair of boots straight into a match, but I am saying if you can avoid it, I would personally recommend that. A light training session with a little bit of jogging, some juggling, passing, maybe some shooting until you've recognized that you can for sure tell these boots are not going to give you blisters, low intensity movements before doing the high intensity stuff. Trust me, in the long run, it's going to make for a much better experience with your brand new boots.